Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, we have had the most technical difficulties of anything of all time. This is probably the most patient woman in the world, and that's why I believe that she's so cool. She just sat through. I had to work through the technical stuff. It was crazy. But also, too, it's been one of those things where we've tried to get her on the show. She had some things. I had some things. But I have been dying to have her on the show because not of what she does, which when you hear about what she does, it's one of the coolest things in the world, but just who she is and who she is authentically, no matter who's around, whether it be some of the biggest name celebrities in the world, or we're just sitting, chilling, having a cup of tea, talking about how much she loves my wife, and her not talking about how much she likes me. So I want to thank Kalena for being on the show today. I am not going to try and murder your last name. You're going to say it because everyone does it. But Kalena is the lifestyle and lifestyle marketing manager for John Paul Mitchell Systems, and probably one of the coolest people in the world, and the person who connects people relationship-wise on a completely different level. So welcome to the show, Kalena.
Kelly, thank you for that intro. I want you to come with me everywhere I go and just be my hype guy. What a beautiful, beautiful intro. Thank you for that, my dear. And you know what? We all run through those tech problems, so you are patient. But thank you for having me. I know we've been trying to connect for a while, and I appreciate you being so flexible with your schedule and allowing me to postpone.
So, Kalena, people have murdered your name for your whole entire life. Say your last name.
Dude, it's very simple. It's just long, so it freaks people out, but it's exactly as it is. Nordgaarden.
Nordgaarden. That's what I was about to say, but I didn't want to murder it, and people kill it.
Yeah, lesson number one: trust yourself.
There we go. There we go.
Trust yourself. You know.
So, this yourself thing, I hear this all the time, and be yourself. When you're yourself, everything will work out. And I used to be so mad as a kid when people would say this stuff. And I was like, whatever, but give me some techniques on how to succeed. And then people would just be like, just be yourself. And this is what I hear from you and what I see from you all the time. Yeah. Kalena being Kalena, no matter what. Can you help to construct this? Can you help us with this?
So I wish that I could. I wish there was some magic, like here's how I became myself. But literally from day one, I have always marched to the beat of my own drum. And I never knew that until people pointed out to me. Like if I wanted to wear a green turtleneck to school with the vest from Mexico over the top of it, I did it. My teacher called me Kermit the Frog. I don't care. Like I'm going to say like what makes me the happiest. And there was never a question about, should I do this or should I not? Well, yeah, I'm going to do it because it makes me happy. And that's kind of the basis. Like I'm kind of selfish in that sense, but like, that's really it. It's just do what makes you happy. Being myself makes me happy. I only know how to be myself. So I wish there was some secret formula, Kelly, but, yeah, follow your heart, do what makes you happy. Again, that word "your" is in there. But there's always been this internal desire just to do what I want to do. And so that's about it.
Who gave you this permission though? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's pressures. I always joke with my wife and I'm like, there's so many pressures as a man in society because people are constantly looking at the way that I look. And I'm joking with her all the time, but there's so much pressure on you as a woman. There's so much pressure on you as a young lady where you're growing up. My daughter's 12 years old right now. And it's like, she told me the other day, she's like, Dad, I'm trying to figure out my label. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, it would just be easier if I don't care about other people's labels on me, but I want a label that I know. So then that way I can walk in. There's so many different pressures. Who gave you the permission to be authentically Kalena and wear the vest when you wanted to wear the vest and do whatever you wanted to do?
Yeah. Okay. So I love that you use that word permission. And I want to talk about that separately. I'll answer your question because the permission thing was never a concept that like entered my brain. But to answer your question, I think it has to be my parents, my family. I was raised by really strong parents. And they split when I was young, very amicably. And I lived with my mom primarily, and she was raised by a mom with four sisters and so five girls in a family. You had to like fend for yourself, fight for yourself. But my mom raised me to be like a strong, independent, self-sufficient woman. Uh, and those values kind of were instilled at birth. Um, so I think just having freedom as a kid, and my parents weren't concerned with any labels or anything like that. They were like, be you, do you. So I think growing up in a household like that where you have the freedom to express yourself is part of it for sure. And I'm so curious. I have the same question about people who think like your daughter label. I want to know this. I want to know that. Those never were intrinsically like questions that I ever asked myself. I'm just going to go do what I want to do and fit in wherever I fit in. It doesn't matter to me. A little bit like a chameleon. You know, you can, if you don't have any labels, you can play in any playground. You can play with any group. Um, and I'm so curious where she like why does she have those thoughts, and why does she want to try to find a label for herself?
And what's so crazy about it, right? And shout out to my daughter, to McKenna, and she's the love of my life. But it's so funny because I said, baby, what advice would you give to daddy if daddy said that? And she's like, first of all, I wouldn't be talking about myself in the third person. She's very sarcastic. She's like, you just talked about, what are you, a pro wrestler? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just said dad. And plus, I'm 12 years old. Dad, I'm not calling you daddy right now. So
Yeah.
that was the first thing. And then I said, what advice would you give to daddy if I asked you the same question? And she was like, that would be simple. Be yourself because everybody else is taken. And I was like, hold on, you just dropped bomb wisdom on me. And then you're asking about a label. So I think a part of it comes from, what is the aunt that I'm talking about, your mom's sister. I got to hang out with her in Austin.
Yeah.
I love, really cool jewelry, little,
Yeah. There's Auntie Lori, but you're talking about Auntie Sarah.
Auntie Sarah.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I love her because she was giving your
Yeah.
mom the business. Like the sisters were together, and she was just, your mom would say something, she would just give her a hard time right away. How much of an influence did your aunts have on you as you were growing up too?
Oh, fantastic question. Auntie Sarah was just in town, by the way, this last weekend. So,
I
like,
love her.
and I witnessed that dish it back and forth. And I'm an only child, so I just kind of sit back and watch them because there are five girls in that family, and my mom and Sarah are the last two. Sarah's the baby, and so I just kind of watch. Like, is this what it's like to have siblings? Because, ooh. But I was so fortunate as a youngster. My parents split, and I got to spend so much time with both sides of my family. And so I would spend my summers out on the farm in Minnesota with my Aunt Lori, weekends with Auntie Sarah. So both sides of my family, aunts, uncles, cousins on my dad's side, on my mom's side, were a huge part of my life. And so it was super fun to see the different walks of life that each of those family members took and has taken. And you don't know that as a little kid, like what who your family members are and what they stand for, but you learn about it as you get older and looking back at it as an adult. It is so fun to see, where they were, where they are, where they're going, and the stories. I mean, and of course, my Aunt Sarah has the most colored and fun history. And, she is that loud, outgoing, colorful person who's going to jump on a Harley, drive a big rig, and, just have a bunch of biker friends. And it's so great. It's so great. But yeah, family was a huge, huge influence for me and support system. I'm so grateful too because my mom will. Our family's awesome, Kelly, and like we spend holidays together, and we've got traditions, ugly sweaters at Christmas time, and we burnt a turkey on Thanksgiving a few years ago, and we won't stop talking about that Traeger turkey. But we have a really great family. We all are, spread across the country, and we're always checking in with each other, and just coming together when we need to, and supporting each other. So that sometimes people are like, is your family always like this? I was like, yeah, yours isn't. Like you have a beautiful family. I mean, you guys support each other and you're there for each other. And And not everybody has that. And I remind myself, and my other family members remind me as well, like how lucky we are to have such warm and supportive people.
How much do you think that plays into, like, I watch you, and when I say this, if you're watching right now, I want you to watch how Kalena changes, and she's going to deflect this, what I'm about to say. But how much of it, of the family and that unit plays into the fact of, I mean, you stay so humble and you're a top level executive for a multi-billion-dollar company. You even laughed that off when I said that, and I'll say it again. You're a top-level executive for a multi-billion-dollar company that's connected to other billion-dollar companies. How do you stay in Kalena mode, and how much of the family, the backing of the family, stays in that humility? Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that would just be like beating their chest, like, yo, look what I do. This is what I do. And you aren't that. You're just hugging people, loving on people, and creating relationships wherever you go.
Yeah. It's not about me. It's about the other people and what we're building and what we're trying to create, what we're trying to grow. Yeah, it's not about me at all. It's about the story we get to tell and the culture we get to share. And from a personal, that's kind of the business side of things. I feel that personally as well. And it's always like, I think my goal in life is to make sure that people feel better after having met me. Like if I met you on the street and we shook hands one time, or, we spend a week together on a vacation, like I just want you to feel better after having met me. And so whatever I can do to make your life better, I'm going to do it. That's just my basic motto, goal, whatever. Yeah, it's about growing other people, not I'm not about tooting my own horn. I don't know.
Was this something that was conscious with your mom growing up? Because you grew up with your mom as a high level executive for a billion. I mean, when she started off, it was in the millions. You know what I mean? And then it grows and then it explodes. And when people think about Paul Mitchell, like when I say Paul Mitchell, everyone steps back like, oh yeah, I know. Everybody knows about Paul Mitchell, and they think that it's this, millions and millions of people. And I tell them, I'm like, no, if you walk into the corporate offices, literally you'll high five and shake hands with people and you'll know everybody's name and they'll want to know your name. So, was that something that was it something that you had conscious conversations with your mom as you were growing? Because you were going to a place very early on that was going to be a place that most people didn't get a chance to see.
Yeah, that's a great question. And for those who didn't know, my mom did work at Paul Mitchell, and she was my boss for a number of years. There's a lot of family that works at John Paul Mitchell Systems, but we were the first duo that was directly like working for each other, first mother-daughter duo. So she was a great mentor for sure. There were not like conscious conversations about that, Kelly. It's a great question. I have the same mentality as she does, where we like just care about people and do whatever you can for them. So I like at the end of the day, like we're all just human, right? Whether it's Steve and Tyler walking around John Paul's house, or John Paul coming through the office, or Olympic gold medalists traipsing through the backyard of whatever, like they're just people. I'm a person, you're a person. What do people like? Hey, like just say hello, smile. Like it's just basics like that in my head. That's just kind of a motto. Like there's the person, I'm a person. It's okay to say hi. Don't be nervous. It's fine. But I don't know where it's come from. And Kelly, you are making me write this down. Like, how did I learn how to do this? I don't know. It's just it was part of how I was raised. Like I watched Julie do it with the athletes that we were around and the people we were around as a kid. And so, monkey see, monkey do, I guess.
Well, number one, you keep calling her Julie. Like, when did you get to call her your mom? My mom would have smacked me, and my dad to this day. My dad is 68 years old, right? I'm a 46-year-old man as a father, as a business owner, all these things. And if I ever said my dad's first name, he would whoop my tail in front of everyone, even in the grocery store. He'd put me over his knee and starts paddling me. When did you get to start calling her by her first name?
Bro, it was like So in the office, we try to be professional and respectful and whatever. And so I was conscious. Sometimes I'd be like, Jules, when I'm around other people, but when the office door is shut and I'm in her office, I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? But yeah, we always tried to be respectful of each other when we were in the workplace.
Okay.
And we would always have to explain to people because parent to child sometimes, or the tone that you take can be a little bit shorter or a little snippy. And we'd be in the office and we would like back and forth. And then we'd turn and be like, this is my mom or this is my daughter. Like, it's okay that we talk that way. Or on the flip side, like we'd be at lunch with people and I'd take my fork and like take a piece of broccoli from her plate and eat it. And people were like, what? Oh, it's my mom. It's fine. Like, people who don't know that we are mother daughter, we would do things that were very mother daughter like, and people who didn't know were like, oh, is that okay? But yeah, it was overarching. Always respect each other in the workplace. And so whether that was me calling her Jules or mom, she's like, whatever you want to call me is fine. She never said, it was never a conversation that was brought up. I always tried to be, I'll call her Jules when I'm in front of people.
Well, I'm going to be more comfortable with you calling her mom today.
Okay. I'll call her.
If she refers to mom, everyone watching or listening, she's speaking about Julie Sowald, one of the most iconic people in the professional beauty industry. So talk to us too about young Kalena. When did you realize, like when you were talking about like, and it freaks people out. Like when we were at PLH, my dad comes with me to PLH. He's standing next to John Paul. I've been around John Paul for, years, and you're around him a lot more than me, but I walk up, my dad's like, oh my gosh, nice to meet you, JP, whatever. And JP is telling a story and he's in the middle of the story and he's like, remember this, Gary, when Nelson told me this and then he asked me for a job and then Brad started laughing and then they all chuckled and me and my dad walked away and I was like, Dad, did you know who he was talking about? And my pop was like, no, he was talking about Nelson and then Brad. And I was like, he was talking about Nelson Mandela and Brad Pitt. And my dad just stopped and looked at me and he realized the environment that we were in and that that was just normal. That was just cool.
Yeah.
Right. And my dad doesn't care anyway. When did young Kalena realize that you were in those environments, or were you just around it from when you started and it just was regular all the time?
Great question. I was around it all the time. So my mom worked for Paul Mitchell. I think she started when I was about 9 years old. So she helped found the sports marketing department. So instead of like handing me off to a babysitter, she brought me to the events. And I specifically remember like growing up on the beaches of Southern California, like watching pro beach volleyball from 9 years old. So, but I'm a 9-year-old kid. So I don't realize that these people are, future Olympians or professional athletes. That's just who I'm around almost every weekend. So, grew up around it. And then I started working events in high school as an independent contractor and in college, just kind of same mindset. I think when I was in college, Kelly, is when I was actually traveling on my own. I was, on the road for a couple years, following a musician around and like going to concerts and seeing that space. I always wanted people to feel comfortable, so I never made a big deal out of anything. Whether you're an athlete or a musician or whatever, it's like just be comfortable, be calm, be cool. And that's kind of like when I was about in college when I realized, okay, you're like, because when people would ask me, how'd you get backstage, or how did you meet John Paul, or how did you do this? Like, you just walk like you own the place and you can get anywhere you want, but you just be nice and play it cool. Like, you're not trying to get anything out of anybody. You're just there. I'm there because I appreciate what's happening,
So when did it happen where your friend was like, holy crap, this person? Because a lot of times we don't realize, right? So when we're in environments and your friend sees it and they say something and you're like, oh yeah, that's whoever. When did that happen consciously for you for the first time?
Oh, that's such a great question because I got to think back in the record books. I remember certain instances more from the personal side of my life. Like I said, I went on tour for a couple years with the musician, and um, there are different different memories from that life where people are like, how did that happen? Like you just go and like put yourself in that. Like if you want to meet somebody, then go where that person is, and you hang out and wait until they're there. And that's all I did was I went to a show, hung out afterwards. He came out and said hello, and we just became friends for that. So like, um, and then but also at like John Paul Christmas parties are a whole different world, and the things like, and I like you said before, Kelly, like I have access to this because I work for the company, I work for the that man, so I get invited to this, but not everybody does. And so, I've the guests that I brought to these parties are sort of like, wow, there is Steven Tyler, there's, Smokey Robinson. It's like, yeah, yeah, they're here, all the time. But I got to think back through the archives on that one because I think honestly, kind of growing up around it was really helpful. It kind of gave me that outlook. Like it's it's not about who they are or what you can do for them. It's just they're people. Yeah, I think
What
growing up around that, I kind of
was
had role models who had that mindset.
was that? I mean, was that a conversation too that your mom had with you? Because I'm always interested in these things because you know there's things, there's the lessons that my pops teach me. I remember one of the lessons that my pops, and you've met my pop before, and I think you have. Am I correct? Have you met my pops?
Yeah.
So one of the lessons wasn't a good one. I remember I wanted some cereal and we didn't have any milk. And I remember hearing people saying, "Oh, I went to my neighbor's and borrowed a cup of milk to make some cookies." And I was like, "Well, I need some cereal." So we were broke and we didn't have any money. So I went to the next door neighbor and I borrowed a cup of milk and then brought it home and put it in my cornflakes. And my dad got home and he knew that we didn't have any milk because he bought the milk and we didn't have any money. And he saw my cornflakes in the sink, and he was like, "Who ate cornflakes?" And I was like, "I did." And then I was like, "Man, I shouldn't have said that." And he grabbed me. He didn't have any money, um, but I don't know where he got it. But he took $2 that he didn't have and said, "I want you to walk your butt to the grocery store. You're going to buy a gallon of milk. You're taking it back to those people, and you are never ever going to do that again." And it was just a lesson in always contributing to people as opposed to taking from people.
Sure.
Was your mom having like pull aside conversations with you as a young girl saying these some of these things, or what were some of the lessons that she taught you that maybe you didn't know you were learning at the time?
Yeah. Great question. I Again, you're making me pull back the archives. I got to think back. I had such a great role model with her. So, as a parent, awesome. Like I said, she raised me to be self sufficient, support yourself. And then at work, like at working at Paul Mitchell, the culture but there back in the day when she started was great, and we have such great leaders that were instilling values that she already had. I'm looking over at the corner of my desk, like the four agreements. She already had those values in her, and then she started working at a company that also supported those values and believed in them. So she was coming home with those values, those pillars, and so I'm thinking back. Were there conversations specific to those? Not that I can recall because we were just living it every single day. Just like we're naturally like optimistic people. I'm going to find the silver lining. I'm going to have the best day, whether I'm in a paper bag or an office. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just life is great. Like, we're here. And the chances of us even being born are so small, it's bonkers. So, like, don't sweat the small stuff, kids, because we're here, have a great time, be kind. That was just how we were, all of my family, dad's side, mom's side, just sort of this optimistic, happy, go lucky people. So we just fell into a workspace that was like that. So it was very synergistic, if you will. So uh no specific conversations that I can think of where she pulled me aside and said like, here's how you like, here's what you do, here's how you operate. I want you to be happy and I want you to do this. No, because we were already just like that. I will say one thing, when I started, high school, college, working events for the company as an independent contractor, there definitely were some guidelines put into place. Like this is more the boss talking to an employee. Here's how you act. Here's what you do. Here's what you don't do. Those kinds of things for sure were put into place. And you know, the mindset, the outlook was shared with me. Like, act like John Paul's going to walk around the corner any second. Like, because we do events. Like my job, at the company, part of it is to travel to all these different events that we sponsor and set up an activation, right? So we're all over the country working with different local talent from the Paul Mitchell schools or the salons or the distributors, and we're public facing and we're the ones engaging with the consumers on behalf of the company. And so the mindset is, I want you to act like John Paul is going to walk around the corner any second. So be on your best behavior, be happy, be outgoing, that kind of a thing. So that was told to me. That was one of those golden nuggets that I would always share with every single team that I was working with at every event over the years. Like, definitely, like, game face is on, be happy, have fun, and act like John Paul's right around the corner. Um, so those conversations, those happened more as I got older, like when I was coming into that corporate space. So versus the younger mother-daughter stuff is fuzzy because I'm old and I was a kid a long time ago. But I remember those, clearly, those nuggets being shared, which was great. I mean, I've had one corporate job since college and it's been at John Paul Mitchell Systems. And so my corporate experience is limited to this one company, but it's a great company. Like, nobody wants to leave. So learning those little nuggets here and there, and, building your corporate self, if you will, from such a great mentor and great leader, and all the leaders that we have here. Um, that was one of those lessons that stood out for sure.
So talk to us too about, and I told you this story when I saw you last time. There was a young girl in our company, and she said, "Brooklyn, you had set up for my wife to come up and do the hair for the Golden Globes," and Brooklyn was excited, but she was more excited to go up and spend time with you. Now, we knew the people that were going to be there, and I got to carry her bags and be there with her, and it was just a date night for us. But my wife was so excited. She's like, I get to go spend some time with Kalena. I was like, okay, cool. Where are we going this week? And she's like, we're going to do hair for the Golden Globes. And I said, okay, cool. That's awesome. But she's like, I'm so excited to see Kalena. Well, she mentions this in the salon. The little girl, maybe 19, 20 years old, is like, oh my gosh, you get to do hair for the Golden Globes. How'd you get to do that? And Brooke just stopped and she was like, oh, my friend Kalena, I've known her for probably almost 20 years now. We've been friends. We've done all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, I didn't ask about her. I asked about the Golden Globes. And then Brooklyn told her the story again. And the girl was like, I didn't ask about Kalena. I asked about the Golden Globes. And Brooke just looked at me. We made eye contact. She looked away and she just walked away and was silent. The girl didn't get it. She didn't get the fact that the Golden Globes came from 20 years of relationship that wasn't asking for the Golden Globes. You're probably one of the greatest examples of a relationship that ends up in places that are the stratosphere. Can you talk to us about some of the specifics and why that's so important?
Sure. I feel so privileged to be in the position I am and have the job that I do, because, and I'm going to call myself out on this, because sometimes I don't realize how big or stratospheric those things can be. Like, it warms my heart to hear you share that story. I loved having you guys come up for that Gold Meets Golden event. It was wonderful. And I'm sort of the middleman between like connecting people, and I love that. I love it. But like I said, I don't realize how big sometimes that can grow and how it can be, because it's so everyday for me. It's just normal. Um, and I love that story that you shared, and I laugh. And I never really understood the phrase hindsight is 2020 as much as I do now as more of an adult, because I like want to take that stylus you were talking about and just like shake her. Like, it is like sometimes you don't know how important relationships are as you're building them until 20 years later and you get invited to do hair at the Golden Globes. It's but I really enjoy providing opportunities for people to do stuff, partnerships, whatever it can be. Like I want to help, and I'm in a position where I meet a ton of different people in different walks of life. And so connecting the dots and okay, how do we make your dreams come true, Kelly? Like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? All right, let's do it. Maybe this person can help. Maybe that person can help. And I love being able to do that while also from this and the way that we get to do it. I work for a hair care company, but we're in, not hair care space. And so it's a very different audience and unique. And so you are a wonderful hairstylist who loves football, who loves all these other activities, right? And so blending different worlds in that hair space, I just love it. I think it's wonderful and unique. But man, shake everyone's hands, say hello, introduce yourself, and just keep everybody's contact info and just be nice, because you never know who you might need to call upon or who calls upon you in the future for certain things. So we should have a sit down talk with your friend.
Well, I think you're such a great example of kindness, and I didn't realize this until I looked up the words, because I was doing some research and I was looking at the word nice, right? And then I was like, oh, nice and kind is the same thing. And when I looked it up, it wasn't the same thing. Nice was out of obligation and kind was to be of contribution. And you're such an example of contribution, of kindness, like true kindness. Like I've never seen you have an ask ever, ever, ever. Even when you call Brooke and say, would you like to do this? You're still contributing to her with an opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're looking at these things, talk to us about a specific time where you didn't realize that your kindness was going to end up, and then you ended up in a situation where you were like, holy crap, I'm so glad. I am so glad that I was. And the reason why I say this is because I've had so many of these in my life where I'm like, I'm so glad that I wasn't a jerk on that day, because 20 years later, I'm sitting with the person and it has such a phenomenal impact. And the reason why I say this, Kalena, is because you're constantly depositing into people's lives. I've never seen you withdraw. You're constantly depositing. I'm waiting for the withdrawal at some point because your account is on swole. Your account is like on trillion status. But talk to us about a couple of specific times when you didn't know what you were doing, but then, 10, 15, 20 years later, you're sitting in this situation and you're like, God damn, this was good.
Yeah. So I have two that come to mind, and you're going to laugh because one of them didn't even benefit me. It benefited my friend. And I was like, this is so great. And that example is, so a couple years ago, John Paul had one of his holiday parties. And this one, sometimes it's different every year. Sometimes he'll have a party at his home in Malibu. That's more for like personal friends, family, and the JPMS, offices. And a friend of mine who's a musician happened to be in town at the same time. And I was like, do you want to come to the party? I mean, we'd love to have you. And so he came, and we're, bouncing around the house, and he's seeing friends that are, of a certain celebrity status, and he's seeing them and he's saying hello and he's catching up, and, hours go by and we're having a great time. And then we're walking around the backyard and he sort of stops and he goes, that's Steven Tyler. I'm like, yeah. He goes, it'd be great to meet him. Okay. So we just grabbed him, like walk up, introduced him. They hit it off. And Steven happens to be a huge fan of this particular musician and plays his music like in their green room before they go on stage. And so they were just geeking out on each other. And so because of that introduction, like Steven invited my buddy to be a part of the Janie's Fund charity event the next month, and like went to the Grammy Museum for that charity event, got to like go on stage and perform with Steven, and, was part of that. And so the reason I couldn't make the original date for a podcast is because I flew to Park City to go see this musician friend of mine. He's like, I'm doing a concert like last minute, one night, I'll be there. So I went and we're hanging out afterwards, and he's got some friends that we're hanging out with, and he's like, "This girl right here." She invites me to a Christmas party. I meet Steven Tyler. It led to this, it led to that, and he was sharing that story. He's like, "I cannot thank you enough for that opportunity." Like, all I did was bring two people literally closer together, and there it was, you know. So that is the first story that popped into my head. Um, and then just from a relationship building, like over the course of the years, I'm a huge, huge sports fan, and I love the Olympics. Like, I just love, and I've been so fortunate to go to a number of them, and I'm going, and it's just the camaraderie that's there. You've got countries coming together, and we're all there for the same purpose, and that, you know, that unity, that feeling you have. Um, there's nothing like it. And yes, I've got friends that are competing in different sports there. So, but even if I didn't know people that were competing, I'd still go. But I think back to Brazil, the Summer Games in 2016, went to Rio de Janeiro and was there to watch indoor volleyball and beach volleyball specifically. We had some athletes competing there. I had friends competing. And because of our connections to the beach volleyball world, the indoor volleyball world, you know, I was able to, you know, cash out some of those deposits. And I asked, I was like, "Hey, you know, do you have a line on tickets? You know, you can buy tickets to Olympic venues or events through the own Olympic website, but like the USA Volleyball Organization, they also have tickets." And so I was able to, you know, I didn't get free tickets. I don't care. I wasn't expecting free tickets, but I did get like seats in the family section, or, you know, good seats here, like a discounted rate or something. So I was able to ask for, you know, anything there. So it's so simple, and I hate to say it this way, but like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But, you know, but like I said, be kind. And I love that you explained the difference between what nice and kind are, that difference. And I will start using kind more now that I know that difference. Nice is because you kind of have to, but kind is because you want to, you know.
Well, I've been working on this, and this is actually, it's my next book, which is Be Kind, Make Friends, and Stay Curious. I didn't prompt you on any of those things, but can you expand on those things? Because I believe that they are the foundation of all business, all relationships, and there is not a business that I've found, or not a position that I've found, or not a goal that I've found that you could not accomplish with those three: being kind, making friends, and staying curious.
That's a really great book, and I can't wait to read it. Holy smokes. Like, those are, you kind of summarize what life should be all about, honestly, in those three key phrases. I love the be curious part, especially. That's sort of a new chapter in my life as I start traveling a little bit less. Um, well, the last couple of years we've all traveled a little bit less, I think. And so I've had to figure out, okay, I'm not traveling as much for work because I literally cannot. So what am I interested in? What do I like to do outside of these like sporting events that I'm used to traveling to and working, and which I love? I got my weekends free now because of COVID. So what is Kalena curious about? So learning that, exploring different avenues, different facets, self-discovery. Holy smokes, it's so exciting. And you have self-discovery, which is a huge adventure, but you also have like when you make your friends, and you can go and be curious with them too. So two different types of adventures, I think, you know, inner self-discovery adventures and outer with your pals, by yourself as well, but with your friends. I think it's necessary. Those three things you shared are necessary to grow, change, and become the next iteration of you. You can't stay the same. No one stays the same. And you need those things, those three things, to become, yeah, like I said, the next better version of yourself, I think.
So, Kalena, talk to some of the young ladies out there, because, you know, I love to see this, especially because I have a daughter.
Mm.
They're navigating, they're going through. You heard when we first started off, my daughter actually told me she wanted a label. Like, this was the craziest. I mean, you know, and with women, I mean, obviously you're seeing more and more opportunity happen, things like that. But if you got to sit down with a group of, 16 to maybe 20-year-old, young ladies, 5, 6,000 of them, and you got to give them 5 pieces of advice, what would it be?
Great question. One of them, I like the analogy, like peel back the onion. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Peel back, for your daughter who wants a label, why? Um, and I do this exercise all the time to figure out, okay, what triggers me? Why am I happy? Why am I mad? What am I loving? And I will peel back the onion a little bit, peel back and keep asking myself questions. So for those, and that's more specific to kind of your daughter and that label question, like, well, why do you want a label? What are you looking for? What are you seeking? Um, and for that group, that 16 to 20-year-old group too, again, that's such a different age range too, like a 16-year-old versus a 20-year-old. In a number of those years, some people might still be looking for themselves and who are they and what's happening. And again, to me, um, doing what is best for yourself and what's going to make you the happiest, whilst also being conscientious of other people and not hurting anybody else. I want to make that distinction. Like I'm not, yes, I know I said I was selfish and I am, but I also am conscientious of other people and I think when I say I'm selfish, I'm like, I'm going to wear this jacket, even though I work for a company whose colors are black and white. I'm going to wear color every day because I just love color, right? Like that's the kind of selfish I'm talking about. Okay, but these girls, um, use your voice. Use your voice. Don't be afraid. And that's to anybody, honestly, whether you're, male, woman, not, doesn't like, don't be afraid. So many people are afraid to speak up sometimes. Because they don't want to rock the boat. But you don't have to rock the boat super violently. Like confrontation doesn't have to be bad or mean. Like if something triggers you, it's okay to bring it up. There's a nice, gentle way to bring it up and have that conversation. So, use your voice, find your voice. Oh man, be original. I love it. Like it's so cliche, Kelly, but like be yourself. And I wish that I had nuggets on how and why to do that. But like I said, I have homework to do because of that. Because you asked me, like, where did that come from? I don't know. I was just born that. I was just born with it. So, but it comes to make you happy. Ask questions for sure. Ask questions. Ask for help, support, um, and buck trends. Man, it's so funny. Sometimes I play like I don't have a television at home. I don't even have the internet at my house. Like I don't have a computer, and I'm at a job in front of a computer all day, every day of the week. And so when I come home, I like to disconnect. I do have a cell phone. Yeah, that does work. But I actually sometimes like to, and this probably plays into why, Kelly, that like it's not a big deal to me when I'm in a certain room of certain type of people. Because part of it is I don't know what everybody has done. Like your dad, like when, Nelson and Brad, I just sort of stay out of off the phone or out of the news or off social just to separate myself from being in front of a screen all the time and just develop myself without the use of this or technology. I think really figure out who you are without scrolling.
Ooh.
Yeah, that one I think is big, especially for that age, even maybe even younger,
Well,
Um,
when you're in the type of situations that you are, and you're flying, and like most people would already see. I mean, you're a very young woman. People would see you as like, well, she's already in the stratosphere. Like, how do you keep yourself moving and motivated when it's like literally your body of work right now at the young age that you are? You could tap out. You could Costanza it. You know what I'm saying? You could be like, I'm out. Like I said the one joke, they laughed, I'm out. You have a whole lifetime and body of work but what keeps Kalena going?
that's a fantastic question, Kelly. And I think the opportunity to do new things, be curious, try new things. We we've been in the sports space for so long. Love it. It's awesome. It's done wonders for us. I am always looking for the next iteration of that, and this is specific to work, if you will.
Yeah.
How do we bring John Paul Mitchell systems and the brands that we have to a new audience in the most impactful way? What does that look like? So that's the job. Like it's never boring. It never gets stale.
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate that's part of the job I have to do. So it's naturally, the work itself is naturally motivating. And then from an internal perspective, back to your book title, like be curious. I always want to learn. I don't know. No one can ever stop learning. I mean, I'm never going to know everything. And I love that because I want to expand my knowledge and expand who I am as a person and learn more about everything. So just that natural curiosity that I have, to always be better. The insides of my shoes, I have some workout shoes and the insides say better than yesterday. And that's all I strive for. Just be, if you even just 1% better than you were yesterday. So just continued curiosity, continued learning.
Who do you geek out? Like who or what do you geek out on that's just you? Like I remember we were watching I'm a huge sports fan. We were watching the playoffs and this was years ago, but it was halftime and I switched over to ESPN because it was playoffs and they're on network and I switched to ESPN and it was the World Bowling Championship, like the top.
Yeah.
And there was a woman on there named Kelly Kulick. She was the first woman to compete against a man.
Okay.
And she smashed him. Like on another level. And I'm a big bowler. I love me some bowling. I love it.
Ooh.
High score 273, just saying.
What?
But I'm saying, like, I was watching it and I was geeking out on it, and everybody in the room is watching playoffs, and this is halftime, and I'm like, I can't believe it. This is so great. And everyone's like, why are you watching bowling? And I'm watching Kelly Kulick, and I called my buddy because it was the Red Rock, and I called my buddy who was one of the food and beverage manager. I said, I need to meet Kelly Kulick. And he said, well, when do you want to meet her? And I said, well, I need to meet her whenever. He said, I said, let me open the salon for her. She needed her hair done. He called 45 minutes later. I was in the car driving to the salon and I picked her up, brought her to the salon, did her hair. And in my head, I'm thinking, man, everyone's going to be like out there. She just won the Pro Bowler Championship. Wasn't no one out there. It was just her and I. She gave me the ball that she beat the guy with, autographed it, and I'm geeked out like this Kelly Kulick. Nobody cares except this guy. What is that geek out thing that Kalena, like whether it be person or event, that you just want for you? What is that?
It's anything in like the music industry. If I wasn't in sports, I would be in music. And that's where I'm either at a sporting event or I'm at a concert. That's where I'm spending my time. And so there's nothing better to me than standing front row, like in a concert, just ogling whoever, like whatever musician's on stage. I just love that experience. There's nothing like it.
Who are you into right now? My daughter's into the Aubreys. The Aubreys is her thing. Are you an Aubrey fan?
I would have to look. So
Finn Wolfhard. Finn Wolfhard, Stranger Things. This is okay. So lifestyle marketing. I need this is what I need from Kalena. I need Kalena to get the cast of Stranger Things to be Paul Mitchell lovers because my daughter is the biggest Stranger Things fan in the world.
Okay.
So we need to make this happen. But Finn Wolfhard is Mike on Stranger Things, and he has a band, and it's called the Aubreys.
Yes.
Okay.
So, oh God, that's such a great question.
Like who's Kalena into? Who's Kalena into right now? Who are you jamming to? Who you got in the car?
Alan Stone just dropped an acoustic version of a lot of his songs that are nuts. It's a beautiful record. So Alan Stone is always going to be at the top of the list. I can't go without saying one of my tried and trues, Gavin DeGraw. I will always love him. But right now there's Louis Capaldi, come on, like he's the best. There's a bunch of stuff on Spotify that like I play and I don't pay attention to who it is, but I just know I jam on it. Um, SYLM is awesome. Mark Broussard has some new stuff. I like a lot of underground, like off the radar music. I'm, you know what I'm getting into, Kelly, which is I thought I'd never say this. Country, starting to love country. Just gotta
I'm
give it a
feeling.
shot. Give it a shot. You know. Um,
I didn't grow up with it either. I didn't
yeah.
grow up with it. It was very tough on me that I had a daughter and I was like,
Mm,
this, I mean, there's some good stuff.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Damien Horn, Damien Horn. Mm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you took country and Maxwell and mixed them together, that would be Damien Horn.
That's a really good analogy.
I mean, Damien Horn is like if you this one of the sexiest artists. And I'm not just talking, I mean, he's a sexy guy. Like you see him, he's a sexy guy. But I'm saying sexy, like his music is sexy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. God.
Who do you wish more people knew about?
Martin Sexton. Martin Sexton is a gentleman from like upstate New York, Vermont. He's in that upper northeastern corner. He's probably 50-ish years old. Um, Martin has, like, John Mayer has said publicly that Martin Sexton has the best voice he's ever heard. He has such a clear, strong tonality to him, and he can yodel. Like he has this beautiful vocality, and it's nuts. He's just and he does this crazy like looping, and he uses different synthesizer like microphones to help change his voice. And it you could just sit there and listen to him all day. He's nuts. He's great, but I wish more people knew him. Then again, sometimes I don't because when I go to his shows, it's not jam packed. Out here, he's definitely more well known, like on that East Coast side of things. But like his last show out here on the West Coast, it was so not packed, and I was like, "This is great" because I could just stand there and stare at him up close. Um, I'm gonna say this name and let me know if you know her or not. Grace Potter.
I don't.
Gracie Potter. She's another one. Like again, like she's from Vermont, lives out here in in LA as well. But like you want to talk about okay, the way you feel about was it Kelly the bowler?
Mhm.
Um, Gracie Potter is like the chick rock star version of your bowler. Like Gracie Potter rips on a guitar, wears like she's kind of all the things that I might want to be, like a ripping rock star who rocks bonkers fun outfits, married kid, like just she kind of does it all. She's got the career, she has the family, she's just and she's nice, she's cool. Um, so she's somebody I think that everybody should know. Gracie Potter.
You just
Oh.
described yourself, by the way. I just want to let you know that. Okay, so I want to take me down this rabbit hole,
Yeah.
because when you have a woman that is as good at what they do as you, and then they have the heart that you do, and then they have the soul that you do, they have the family that you do, which is when I say you have all those things, I'm making up a fictional or like a fictional character. This doesn't exist most of the time. How does that work in relationships though? Because a lot of people, a lot of guys that would come into this situation would be super intimidated and try and compete. And you can't compete with you. You've got
Yeah.
to amplify you. How does this work in relationships, whether it be positive or negative?
Yeah. It's been a really interesting journey. I've said it a couple times, being raised to be a strong, independent, self-sufficient woman came from experiences that my mom went through where she relied on somebody else and that person like put her in a hard spot, so she had to dig her way out on her own. This is not my dad, by the way. Sorry, different person, but yeah, props to my dad, I love you. So those real like steadfast values of like make sure you can take care of yourself, stand on your own 2 feet, don't rely on a man to take care of you. That's how I was raised. So um and then got into college, graduated, got my job right out of school. And so, and basically I was on the road traveling a lot. And so I think being raised with those strong independent values, plus being able to travel a ton, like I'm on the road, I'm exploring, I'm seeing the world. I Getting married and having kids were not a top priority. It was I want to build my career, and like I'm traveling, I'm loving what I'm doing. It's I get to see new places and meet a ton of people. So, there was no need for me to settle down, or like I don't want to settle because I meet so many people. There's so many fascinating people in the world. Like, why just settle on one person? Like right now, there's just so many fascinating people out there. So just learning and experiencing all of that stuff. There have been, a few men in my life that I was like, I could settle down with this. Like, it's great. It hasn't worked out, and that's fine. Fortunate that I've met people who understand the work I do, because one of them was in the same kind of work, like traveling on the road a ton too. So commonality, there was no competition. It was all support. But it just didn't work out. Probably, honestly, Kelly, I think because I was a little bit too much myself. That might be the one time when I think back on, the last man that I dated a couple years ago, like seriously, like we broke up, I think, because I was a little bit too much myself. Like, um, I didn't take his perspective or thoughts, feelings into certain situations. And I should have, and I just didn't because I just didn't know. That was a very good lesson I learned. But it's been, yeah, like I said, it's been overall, like there's not been competition in the relationships I've experienced, only because I'm finding people who are either in that same kind of space, or they're like they're understanding it. Like they're understanding of it. I have a very unique, relative to, the whole world, unique job, unique life. I know what I love doing. And I'm not going to give that up for someone, unless I wanted to. I felt like it was right.
Absolutely.
That hasn't happened yet, so I'm okay with that.
Well, I think it's amazing. I mean, there's so many similarities with Brooke and you, and
Hmm.
she was raised to be fiercely independent. And when we got together, it was probably one of the toughest things because I was raised in a family where my mom was strong enough to take care of herself and our whole family if she needed to. But she had enough strength to allow my pop to do it because she knew that he needed it to feel like a man. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
so I was in this realm where I saw this incredibly strong woman, and she was constantly in my ear. The greatest thing you could ever do for your kids is love their mother. And so she would just say this to me, say these things over and over, like the greatest thing you could ever do, and love your wife and cherish your wife and all these things. And so I was raised in this part of it that like I'm not that I want to be the man and dominate, but I wanted to be like I wanted to be the man and treat her like a queen. And then when I came into the relationship, I was like, I want to treat you like a queen, and she was like, I can get my own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to back the hell up, you know. And so there was that learning back and forth with it.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit because you have been around the company that you work with since it wasn't the juggernaut that it is now. What are some of the things that you can tell to young aspiring companies or to people in companies that maybe they're like, I'm trying to get to this point?
Mhm.
What would be some advice that you would give, because you've seen it happen and you've seen some attrition happen over time because people weren't ready for the jump to the stratosphere, right? They didn't prepare themselves at the level. Now, you guys are pretty unique in the fact that most of the people in the culture of Paul Mitchell, I mean, they just continue to be themselves, but not everyone's ready for that jump. What advice would you give to that?
Yeah. I think you have to have a really good foundation, strong brand identity, company identity. What are your culture values? What do you stand for? I mean, we know what JPMS stands for because our leaders, Paul Mitchell and John Paul DeJoria, built the company on very clear values. That's been so helpful. And knowing what you stand for as a company, keep it clear. That's impeccable. Whether it's your company, who are you? who are you? What do you stand for as a person, as a business person? What does your company stand for? Stick to those. Don't change that. And it's so interesting, over the course of the years, the company, we don't jump on board with things as quickly as we should. That's not a bad thing, not a good thing. We sometimes like to sit back and kind of watch and see how some of the industry reacts, like becoming an e-commerce company, jumping into social media. We kind of like, all right, we tested the waters, but didn't commit fully until kind of seeing how things went, which has been really fascinating to see, because then I love in this, like Michaeline comes in and I love it because she'll rip the Band-Aid off and say, let's just try, let's just do it. Got to go for it. It's been so fun to see that change. And, the last 7-10 years of the company, it's amazing to see how much we've grown and changed and the things that we've tried. So don't be afraid to try new things, while also like sticking to your core values. That's kind of company wide. Specific to people, like I said this before, like don't be afraid to use your voice. If you have a dream, a wish, a desire, like bring it up. If you're not the top of the food pole or food chain, like bring it up to your higher up. Like share. If you don't speak up, they're not going to know. They're not mind readers. So if you want to grow, you want to jump up that corporate ladder, like talk to your next higher up so you can figure out, okay, what's my plan here? What's my path here? How do I get up here? Like ask, talk, share your desires, and do a lot of personal development. Like I've been at one company for my whole career. So I have the last few years, I've jumped outside of it to learn, like take different seminars, personal development classes, like just short courses, just to figure out tools, programs, stuff outside of my day-to-day job. Like I know how to, run Outlook and Word, but I don't know Excel very well. So I took an Excel program, like just things that are going to help broaden your scope of work and your capabilities. That's what I got for right now.
Kalena, what do you think is the biggest misconception? Like when a person, okay, when I explain you to my friends, right? And I'm like, yo, my friend Kalena, I had to write down the title today because I know the titles change as you go along, but lifestyle marketing manager. But I explained to him, like, she's working with activations, with sports activations, with all these different things. And I mean, she's bringing people together, these relationships. I must have lost her just for a second. Let's see if she'll come back on. Station identification. Kalena Nordgaarden. I think that we have a little bit of a technical difficulty. Hopefully she'll pop back on here in a second. But we seem to have lost her. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show today, and we're going to check and see if we can get her back up and running. Oh, there she is. See, I knew we could get her. Let's get her. Oh my gosh, I lost you.
Kelly,
Are you there?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I am so sorry.
You're good.
My laptop battery just cut out. I didn't even realize it was not plugged in at all.
No big deal.
Oh my God.
You're good. You're good. See, this is what I love about Kalena, guys. And so I was saying that we had a few technical difficulties, but this is what I love about Kalena is the fact that the realness, right? And so you hear the realness. She just dropped an F-bomb just a second ago. You guys heard it, right? So that's real Kalena, but also too being able to deal with the challenges that come ahead. And this is exactly the question that I was going to ask you as we were going is, what are some of the misconceptions? Because when I explain Kalena to my friends, they're like, oh, damn, she just flies around in jets all the time and, and is on backstage and knows Steven Tyler and hangs out with John Paul and, does all these things and just drives around in a Rolls Royce and just popping out. And the Kardashians are there and Kanye West and everybody's just hanging out. And she ain't, she's just high-fiving people and then everything gets done. What are the misconceptions of a top-level executive of a multi-billion-dollar company, like I said earlier? What are the misconceptions of that?
That it really is that glamorous. You just made it sound so glorious and glamorous, and there are parts of it that are, and that's the shiny new toy that we show off. But it's the behind-the-scenes stuff, the day-to-day, the boring event planning details that people don't see, although the work that goes into getting up there to those opportunities. That's the non-glamorous part. That's a misconception there. Like there's a lot of work that goes into making those opportunities happen. To summarize, like, JPMS, we sponsor different events, tours, athletes that kind of fall into that sports space. So we go to these events and we set up an activation and we are sampling products and doing all kinds of things. So somebody's got to travel to these events. It's great. It's fun, but someone has to set the booth up and break it down and, send all the emails out and communicate and all that fun stuff. So if you are a detail oriented person and you like, emails and communications and consistent follow up, like awesome. Event planning is basically what part of what the job is. So yeah, it for sure is glamorous, but there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people aren't privy to. That's where the hard work gets done, if you will. So that I think is the biggest misconception, that it's all fun and games. And it 99% of the time is, but there's work that goes into it as well. That's just not like fun to look at. So we don't, share that or talk about it.
So, I don't know if you guys did this or if this was cryptic, but I read into things. And there was a time where this was the sports marketing department.
Yes.
And now there's a different word, meaning lifestyle. So what different lifestyle? I mean, I know you're doing music. You got sports in there. What other type of lifestyle, are you doing? And is Stranger Things in the pocket there? That's what we got to know.
Yeah. So great catch on that. The department started as sports marketing about 37 years ago. And we had things in there that have come and gone that kind of fell, bridged kind of different worlds. Like, and John Paul kind of always thought, hey, maybe we change it to lifestyle. Cause like some of the things that we're doing don't necessarily constitute as a sport, bounce back and forth. And we officially changed the department name about 6 or 7 years ago, because some of the partnerships that we had, like I said, kind of fall into different areas. So we have a wonderful partnership with World of Dance, and you could call dance a sport, but some of it isn't. It's more than just that. It's fashion, it's music, it's hair, it's makeup, it's all of that stuff that isn't just sport specific. And so it's like, great, if we wanted to, we're going to go into lifestyle. So maybe if we want to partner with a chef or a yoga instructor or kind of that stuff that's outside of that sport specific space. So we change it to lifestyle to kind of broaden our horizons, and to be able to work with people, events, entities just outside of that hard driven sports space. So again, I wrote it down, I highlighted it, and I underlined Stranger Things. It's on the top of the list.
I think it goes right in line with Olympic athletes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
You can see the parallels with it, like right in line. And I was talking with my friend the other day because she's her husband is the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, and she has a podcast. And one of the girls from Stranger Things is a huge Tennessee Titans fan. And I said, well, you got to have her on the show. And I said, when you have her on the show, I'm inviting myself and I'm bringing my daughter, because my daughter is going to meet the Stranger Things people. I don't care what is going to happen, but this part is going to happen.
Yeah.
So another thing, Kalena, is, talk to us about why. And I'm not talking about the list on the wall or the resume that John Paul has. Tell me why Kalena has the type of belief, and because every person that's around that man has a personal story of why they believe. And it's, for those of you listening, this is not a commercial for John Paul. This is 29 years for me, 29 years of a dude being so consistent and affecting not only myself, my family, my extended family on a personal, crazy level. Tell me Kalena's story of why.
That is a great question, Kelly. One of them is John Paul. Oh gosh, this had to have been in the late, like 1999, right around there, I believe. I was a junior in high school, and my dad is in the military. Well, had been in the military, and he was overseas. He was an independent contractor at this point. He wasn't overseas with the military, but it was during all kinds of, crazy stuff happening with like the Saddam Hussein, Iraq, Kuwait kind of stuff. John Paul was abroad doing some tours, doing some political work, and heard that my dad was over there and went and visited him, like made it a point to go to where he was stationed and sat with him for an hour and just heard about, like, asked about his life, what he was doing there. Made it a point to go visit my dad while he was overseas in like war-torn areas. And so that happened. And then I keep bringing up the holiday parties because that's where like you get a lot of time with him. But at the holiday party after that, a month or two later, John Paul got up and was making a speech. And this is back in the day when the company was very small. So we were in, a beautiful like small ballroom at a hotel in Beverly Hills or something. So the audience was very small. It wasn't, hundreds of people. It was maybe 100 people. John Paul was speaking, and he called me out of the audience and just shared his story about how he went and visited my dad, and how important it was to him and how special he felt to have had the chance to do that. And I'm like, okay, I'm 16, but I will do whatever you want. Okay. Like, just who does that? Who takes a detour on a political military tour and, meets the junior in high school's dad, like in Kuwait? That man does. So I'm sure, I don't know the full history of that story and how it came to be. I'm sure that my wonderful mother had a hand in it, but that was hugely like imprinted on my heart, for sure, forever.
So Kalena, what can a young business owner that wants, because at one time John Paul wasn't John Paul, right? But yes. John Paul, if this makes sense, at one point John Paul wasn't John Paul that's hanging out with Nelson and Brad and doing all the stuff. But John Paul was always John Paul. Like that was it was always that. Like, what can a young business owner do to foster relationships with like a Kalena, which there's only one of them, but to foster them and to grow a company and a culture, but maybe they don't have the money right now and they don't have the backing right now. What are some of the things that you would tell that young business owner? These are some of the things that you could do to be able to set it up so you can have that in the future. Yeah.
It's it's having a vision with collaboration is huge to me. I didn't get where I am by myself. Collaboration is key for me. And so I think, for those young entrepreneurs and people who are trying to get there, those people who want to be entrepreneurs, they want to be that because they have a vision. Like they see, at least in my experience, there's a conviction in them that like, this is a great idea and I got to go forward. Great. Take that idea and you want to get up there. Like John Paul and Paul, they didn't do it by themselves. They had a great team around them. Build a great team. If you can, find those people. I circle back to like, know what you stand for. What are your values? You have those and you can find like-minded people who can help you elevate and achieve those goals. Like build a great team, stick to your values. collaborate are some of the key things I think that has helped, John Paul and Paul and Angus and everybody grow the business to where it is now.
Well, I think it's incredible because I think a lot of times people discount. They're like, well, if I was a billionaire, then I'd be doing those kind of nice things too. And it's like, for those people out there that are watching or listening, and if you're seeing Kalena's face, she's like, that's crap. Because honestly, like, and I've seen it happen over the years. When I was talking with Jason Yates, when he was on the show, I was talking with him, and every single person has a personal story of something like visiting your dad in Kuwait. You know what I'm saying? Like it's incredible. I used to discount it as a kid though, because I would be like, well, if I had all the money in the world, then I could be, I could romance the lady and whatever. And then I realized that, with my wife, I remember we were going to go on a date, and I was like, yeah, what do you want to do? You want to go to here? And she's like, how about we ride our bikes over to Rite Aid, get some Solo cups, grab a bottle of wine, and go to the beach. And I was like, we worked all these years for all these things, and that's all you need? I wish that someone would have told me. Kalena, what are some of the things that you wish someone would have told you about, like, because what I notice is when we start, it's simple, right? When we're kids, we're simple. We're running around, riding our bikes, whatever. Then we get into this middle area, and we strive, and we try and do all these things, impress a bunch of people that don't mean anything to us anyway. And then you get on the other side, and it's like you go back to being simple, just like you were when you were a kid, right? What are some of the things that you wish you would have known from, I mean, you had a great upbringing, but now you're on that other side, spending time doing exactly what you love to do. Maybe it's not saying that to you, but maybe saying that to a young kid at, 12 years old or 13 years old,
Yeah. One thing is, I don't like using, you can't avoid a don't. So I don't like saying don't do this or don't do that. But this is in this instance, it has to be said this way. Like, don't be afraid to jump, to take that opportunity. So many people, I have so many instances in my memory where I should have done something and I didn't because I was scared, or I didn't have the confidence. And I was like, F that. Like, because I've seen I didn't do something and I saw the result. I'm like, man, I could have, here's what I could have brought to the table. Or here's what, like, if I had done that, maybe I'd be on that, that trip or whatever. Like, the things that I didn't take a chance on are what haunt me the most. Because for whatever reason, I was not confident. I was scared. I didn't think, I don't live that way. Can't do it. Like, take the opportunity. Yes, you might be freaked out. Yes, you might be scared, but you never know unless you try. And it's like, that's just universal. Like, you see it in so many different ways or forms, like said, that's that kind of advice, but take the chance, do it. Don't be scared, because you'll be more mad if you don't.
Kalena, tell me a specific where you didn't jump and you looked at yourself and you were like, I'm going to kick myself in the tail.
Well, it's more,
do you have any
one actually that just popped into my head?
Yeah.
Where I did.
Okay.
So, like I said, music is a huge passion. Might have been to hundreds and hundreds of concerts, and I was, I was on a cruise called the Rock Boat, where it's like a 5-day floating rock show for, 30 bands are on there. And so there's live music 24/7. And we were going to go see Michael Franti. I'm not a huge fan of his. He's great. But a bunch of my cabin mates were huge fans. And so we went. And so we're posted up front row. I'm having a great time. They start playing a cover of Sublime, What I Got. And I'm just mouthing the words along. There's a middle section that's kind of a rap section. So I was singing it. And Franti goes, hold up. Stop the song. Hey, you. And he points at me like, you, like, bring her up on stage. And like, oh my God. I was all for my, heck yeah, get me on stage. What's going to happen? I don't know. He hands me a microphone. He goes, let's start the song over. Like, you're rapping the words, like, sing the song. At that point, you can either like clam up and not say anything in stage fright, or you go for it and you spit the rhyme. And I went the ladder and, you know, spat that rhyme and just had the best time on stage. Like, is this what it's like to be a hype woman? Oh my gosh, I love it. A different, like a younger version of me might not have, that's a lie. I would have done a younger version of me or not, but some people might not have done that, you know?
It's that humility. It's that humility coming out. Top. I hear the hip hop references. Top 3 hip hop artists of all time for you.
Biggie, Tupac. I'm just gonna. Can I leave the third one blank? Because I can't choose. That's too hard.
Who's your obscure hip hop that, like, for me, my favorite of all time is De La Soul. All time. I'm talking 50th birthday for me. I'm 46. 50th birthday. De La Soul is playing for my 50th birthday.
Okay.
So that's happening. My obscure one is Jurassic 5. Jurassic 5,
Ooh.
probably one of my favorites of all time. Like, I mean, De La, and then, I mean, Jurassic is like right there. Who would you say, like an obscure, maybe not that many people know? Because everybody knows Biggie, everybody knows Tupac. Who does Kalena?
Like Jurassic 5 is awesome. That to me is an obscure. I like, wow. But this is a great question, Kelly. I don't know enough obscure hip hop artists. I gotta do my recon on that.
Okay.
Who should it be? I need your like top 3 or 4 obscure ones, because I need some new tunes for my playlist.
Well, for me, it's tough because I'm a huge old school hip hop fan, right? So like, and my wife keeps being like, "Oh, you're just the old dude who wants people to get off their lawn," and I'm like, I'm not the guy that's like, "Oh, golden age of hip hop and nothing else," but I'm just saying, like, I just love, like, I mean, I think the most underappreciated, they're appreciated now because of Jimmy Fallon, but the most underappreciated group of probably all time is the Roots. And the Roots in concert is probably one of the best concerts you'll ever go to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that part is amazing. I'm trying to think of another one as far as lyrically. Souls of Mischief. Souls of Mischief, probably one of my, and then Dilated Peoples. Dilated Peoples has a song. Dilated Peoples has a song. Worst come to worst, my people come first. And for me, it's like the anthem of my life because I still hang out with the same friends that I did since I was in 4th grade. So, Kalena,
that's special.
Let me ask this, because as you've grown, and it's right in line with that, I still hang out with the same friends. My best friend, his name is Will. Shout out to him, Will Simmons. 4th grade, my best friend. He's still my best friend today. We still hang out, ride bikes, do whatever. For you, as you've grown, how has it been with the people around you? Have you had to shed some and keep some? Or have you just kept everyone?
I have a great collection of friends that run the gamut, Kelly. Like, my best friend, Tatiana, I've known her since 3rd grade. We're still best friends to this day. We rode bikes together to school. That's how we got there, to elementary school. So I've got friends, a few friends from elementary school, a couple from junior high, not a lot from high school. We're all just kind of spread out. And I've made a lot of great friends from the events that I've gone to. Like, I've got friends more around the country and the world than I do at home. So I'm, jumping over to Denver, to New York, just to go visit those friends. So it's like you have your close core people that are at home or that might be, abroad. And then you have your larger network of friends that that aren't as close, that don't know like all your deepest, darkest secrets, but that know you on a different level. And you've got friends that know me strictly through the event space, So I wouldn't say I've had to shed too many people, because no, it's not been like, I'm super conscientious about, on the real, Kelly. Like, I know what I have to offer and I know what I have access to. And when I meet new people, sometimes I'll be like, all right, if they're asking me for something, I'm like, okay, are they trying to be my friend because they like me or because they know what I can get them? That's sometimes the question you have to ask. But 99% of the time it's, oh, okay, they really like me. They're not here for what I can offer. But there is that, and that's from a personal perspective. I also have to remember, like, there's a business aspect to this too. Like, I sometimes forget, like, I have a job that I love, and so it's all personal to me. Sometimes I forget, like, there's some of this is just strictly business. So I can call Kelly Cardenas and be like, hey, how about, can this person come on your podcast? It's not a personal favor. It's just like, I think this might be a great benefit for you. What do you think? Like, there's that business to business relationship part, that where sometimes it is okay, like, okay, what can you offer? What can I offer? Let's try to make something work. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's going to raise us both up. That's the point, So
Absolutely. Well, I think it's interesting too with that aspect, because I think a lot of times people don't realize that as you begin to grow, as you begin to ascend, you kind of have to have that radar. You have to have a little bit of a radar, knowing, if someone's on the take, if someone is coming in there. Now, I don't believe in the other side of it, because there's the extreme of the people that are like, don't trust anyone ever, and you just stick to yourself. I don't believe that stuff works out. But being a little protective or understanding it and having discernment is the word I guess I was looking for. Is discernment is the big one. So, Kalena, the reason why I started the podcast in the whole first place was because I wanted to take iconic people like yourself, and I wanted to show my kids that to do what Kalena does is all about and has more to do with who Kalena is than what she will ever do. And I wanted to show them that iconic people like yourself have a phenomenal attitude, great work ethic. Everything else will work itself out. But also wanted to show them that Kalena is not a superhero, that she's a woman, and she is kind, and she makes friends, and she stays curious all the time. So Maddox is 10. You've seen him. You know who he is. You know this little joker. McKenna's 12. You heard about her. We're going to get those labels out of her head. What advice would you give to Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both of their names, it would be amazing. I think I lost your audio. I believe I lost your audio for a second. Let me see here. Give me a test. See, Kalena and I work through technical difficulties. So I've got no audio on you, but I know that you're giving nuggets right now. I know you're giving nuggets to my kids. It's okay. Oh, there she goes. She's coming in. There we go. I got her. Okay. So what advice would you give to Maddox and McKenna if you use their names too, Kalena?
My M&M team, my little Maddox, my McKenna, the advice I would give you, as you were kind of doing the intro to this question, Kelly, a word that popped into my head, like integrity. It's about having a good attitude, hard work ethic, integrity. Keep the values top of mind, and remember to have fun. I love that about Luke Jacobellis, who's been the president of our company for 35 plus years, has recently transferred the title over to Jason Yates. But have fun. Remember to have fun while also doing that hard work. And at the end of the day, it's just shampoo. I love Luke. He's like, have fun. But at the end of the day, it's just shampoo. Um, and forgive me, leading into this question, what I was saying to you before I so rudely cut myself off, I apologize for my tech difficulties during this. Um, what was there a specific topic that you were looking for, like piece of advice just on life and work, or trying to get into this industry, or just
I think any place where you want to go, because I mean, let's face it, and I'm going to call you Auntie
yes,
Kalena to my kids now. Because
yeah,
when you're on the show, you got to be auntie, uncle, you got to
yeah,
be in that realm. Most kids never get access to Kalena. Does that make sense? And for my
yeah,
kids at 10 and 12 to have a body of work of these aunties and uncles that are in these crazy places, but happen to be in the places, they're great people who happen to do great things. I'm just saying whatever's on your heart.
yeah. Oh man, what a great question, Kels. They're 10 and 12 already. Jeez. I remember when you guys didn't have any kids at all. And I remember you before you were married. This is awesome. Such a history. It's incredible. So, what a wonderful, wonderful topic. And I think for little Mads and Kens, um, like I said, I think it's important to have fun for sure. What I'm exploring and learning a lot about right now, like business and the way it was done for generations, is changing, and like the internet and social media is crazy, in a great way. Like overarching, there are great things that have come from all of those being added to our lives, and the quintessential you are born, you go to school, you go to college, then you get a job. Doesn't have to be that way. Like that was kind of the mentality I was raised with, right? Like you're going to go to school, you go to college, and then you get a job. You don't have to do that. Like you don't, if you don't want to finish, I'm not condoning this, but like everybody's path is different in that sense. Like if you have a calling, if like if Maddox knows I love skateboarding, like that's what I want to do. Okay, you as a parent, you figure out between you two, like I want you to graduate high school first and then you can do it. Or you're like, dude, you could turn pro. Like they're just the path that a lot of generations before us had to take or felt like they had to take. Not the case. I think there's so much opportunity now. So, you know, I keep saying it over, like, don't be afraid to speak your mind. If you love something, you have a passion for something, follow it, do it, listen to your heart and chase that dream. It might not be the path that you thought you were going to go on, or what your parents wanted, or what you think society wants. Like, and McKenna, don't worry about those labels. Why do you want a label? You don't need it. You don't need it. You might feel like you want to fit in somewhere right now, but you fit in just by existing, right? Like you are your own label. Um, what else? This is like, I would love to like converse with them and just hear more like kid nuggets, right? Like when you asked McKenna, like what would you tell dad if he wanted a label? Like, what did she say? She said that there's nobody else.
She said, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah. You just answered your own question about being a label, like having a label. Yeah.
Let me ask you this too, Kalena. Why do you trust my wife the way that you do? And the easy answer could be like, I've known her for 20 years. And so but because when I talk about her and I bring her up, you light up. And the connection point that you have, you could call her, trust her in those realms, and she's going to be able to deliver. And that she's not going to be the hanger on, the person trying to, get something from the people, because that part is important but why is it that you trust her at the level that you do?
Yeah. I trust both of you. In that, because I know who you are, both of you. I know who both of you are. I know what you stand for. I know your body of work, your work ethic, what you're capable of. I know who you are as a person, whether I've known you for a day or a decade. Like Kelly is Kelly, Brooklyn is Brooklyn, and They are honest and kind and hardworking, and that you read that right off the bat. And I think part of part of it is too, I think one of my favorite memories is being at an Xterra event on Maui, years and years ago. You and Brooklyn happened to be there at the same time. And, at this event, we have a cut-a-thon going. We have stylists on site, where we have tables and chairs set up. We're cutting hair on grass. We're raising money for charity. We've got local stylists there, volunteering their time to do these haircuts. Like, Brooklyn walked up, she's like, I saw Paul Mitchell. What are you guys doing? Like, oh my God, we're here. And she was ready, like, I'll cut hair. Like, just that being of service without no questions asked. Like, yes, the answer is almost like always yes. Whatever, yes, okay. Whether it's for work or personal, it's just that sort of integrity. Like, this is such a beautiful industry and a beautiful space. Like, I fully believe, like, you attract what you are. And, like, I've got a lot of really great people around me. And there's a reason why we've been friends for so long and why we connect. And you guys are awesome. And it's obvious, like I said, whether I've known you for a day or a decade. I mean, and you did answer the question kind of for me. Like, yes, there are aspects of the job that require we have access to certain people, in that celebrity space. Yes, that's part of it. And you do need people who are going to be cool, calm, and collected, and, get the job done without trying to, get something out of it, in that, ooh, I'm in it for me versus I'm in it for everybody, I guess. There's opportunity to build the whole, not just the me.
That makes sense.
So
the last question I have for you is, I want to take you back to the beginning, because you talked about all the foundation that you had was because of your family and because of your upbringing. I want you to look into the screen and talk to your mom right now and tell her some things that she doesn't hear enough.
Oh, okay. Dear Julie Sowald, AKA Mom, the mentor to a number of people, you are enough. You did a great job as a leader at JPMS and as a leader at home. And I'm sad that you retired. I miss having you in the office. I think one of my favorite things, one of the things I said earlier was, it's my goal to have, like, if I meet somebody, I want them to feel like they're better off having met me. That's because of my mom. Like, anytime I introduce myself to somebody and they're in the Paul Mitchell Award in whatever way, shape, or form, and I tell them, oh yeah, Julie's my mom, every single time the reaction is, oh my gosh, I love her. She's just the best. Like, that's the kind of reaction I want from people when someone says, oh, Kalena, oh, I want that. Like, everybody says that about my mom. That's their reaction. I just love her. She's the best, with hand gestures, like Italian hand gestures. I don't know. I know some of how she gets that reaction. I know what she does, part of it, but some of it is just a certain, like, je ne sais quoi that not everybody has. She has that sparkle, but, thanks, Mom, for having that sparkle and continuing that sparkle, even though you're not physically at Paul Mitchell anymore. You're here. Your sparkle, your spirit lives on here, and you did great work. And what you built with Brooks and John Paul and everybody, at the company, you built an empire, and it was great, and it still is great.
So Kalena, if I would have told 9-year-old Kalena that she would be doing what she's doing right now, you would have told me I was crazy. What is crazy now for Kalena? What's the stratosphere? What's that Star Wars mentality that you're thinking about now that you can't even fathom that you want to go to?
So I'm trying to figure out the more of a philanthropic endeavor. Like I've had a great career. I still have, I'm continuing work. Obviously, I love what I do. I am figuring out the next chapter of like, do I start a 501c3? How do I just get more involved, give back? That option, literally on the drive in, Kelly. So do you know who Brooks Like is? Who's a hockey player, pro hockey player. He played for the Washington Capitals, played for the Kings for a little bit. Brooks Like recently retired from pro hockey this summer. And last year, he created this thing called the World Playground. It's sort of this geared to be an online, but also in-person kind of adventure community, just a community to bring like-minded people together that are all about like taking adventures, giving back, having impact, going on adventures, being outdoor, living this just be more lifestyle, if you will. And we were on a call last week figuring out, they just returned from a safari in Tanzania. And while they were out there, one of the participants of the safari, like they helped build a school. Like the people out there need, it costs $13,000 to build a school for like, and a woman was like, okay, here you go. Like, here's what it is. Here, take this money and build a school. She wanted no credit, no notoriety. On the Zoom call, like Brooks called her out. He goes, here's what my World Playground group can do. Look at one person donated. And I know not everybody has the means to do that, but how can we collectively help them? They need another school. They need a fence around it. They need a dormitory. Like just spitting the idea out enabled us to build a school. And now we're coming up with different ideas on how we can make the rest of it happen. So that has really like, what else is my purpose? I guess really what I'm getting at. Like, that's kind of a different way to ask your question. What's my purpose? I have a purpose here, but it's bigger. I'm bigger than just this here at JPMS, right? Next part of the story. What's my purpose? And I feel like it's in that direction. How do I adventure still while also making an impact? That's what Brooks's World Playground is all about. It's incredible the questions that have been asked that sort of like help me see like, oh, this is an option. This is an opportunity. I can go this direction, try that. So I think that's the next level of stratosphere, if you will.
Well, I think it's amazing. And being able to, I mean, anyone who gets a chance to be able to be around you, whether it be you're listening right now, you're watching, you're a better person for watching or listening to Kalena. If you get a chance to spend time with her, it's on a whole different level. I mean, I tell you, and I get a chance, not enough chances, but getting the opportunity to be able to be around you. Now's the time, guys, where everyone out there, if you're listening, you're watching, you know what you need to do. You need to click the links. You need to check out the sponsors. You need to do all those things that you're supposed to do anyway. But the other thing is if you found any value, which I know every one of you did, you need to share this with every single person that you possibly can, especially those young ladies out there. The young ladies out there that maybe are waiting for someone to give them permission, because I think Kalena gives every woman, child, man permission to just be themselves, which I think is so amazing. And I want to thank you so much, Kalena, for being on the show. And I want to ask you before we're off the show, I want you on again. Because if I ask you in public, then you have to say yes.
Kelly, it'd be an honor. Oh my gosh. Even having this opportunity, and I apologize for my tech snafu stuff, but yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
They just didn't see all my tech snafu stuff. They didn't see the half an hour of Kalena being like, I'm good, whatever you need. Hey, you got this. And I want to tell you, everyone out there watching, listening, the things that you heard, I would have called bull poop if she was saying things that she doesn't do. I get to see her when we're not recording. I know this woman, and all she did was talk about the things that actually happened in her life. And I applaud you for that, and we need more of that. Because I think that, the Kalenas of the world should be celebrated at the highest level, because you're doing things in the dark that people don't see that get you to do things in the light that everyone celebrates. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
And I appreciate you so much. If you could do one thing for me before we go.
Absolutely.
could you say you're listening to the Kelly Cardenas podcast where attitude is everything? You got to say your name, though. You got to say your name and then say your title, because your title's big and that means you're important. And then say that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Kalena Nordgaarden, who is the lifestyle marketing manager at John Paul Mitchell Systems. And if you have any sense in your head, you are also listening to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything.
That was more than I could ever imagine. Kalena, you are amazing, and you are officially off the hot seat.